Hi you guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. As you're probably already aware, the Louvre was recently robbed. 8 of the crown jewels were stolen, and I thought we could use today's video to not only talk about exactly what happened in the robbery, but to give you an update. Because since then, there have been several arrests and quite a few developments to the case. And I thought it could be interesting to sort of summarize the information that's been released to the public through the French media. I'm going to try and continue to cover this case as it develops. I, like everyone, I'm really hoping that they get these jewels back. And in order to understand future developments, it's important, I think, to summarize everything that's happened. And the reason I'm making this video now and why I didn't make it on the 19th of October when the robbery first took place is because I kind of wanted to wait to see how things would pan out in the coming weeks, and as late as yesterday, the 30th of October, there were 5 arrests that were made. So that's why it's taken me a while to sort of give you this update. But yeah, let's get straight into it, starting with exactly what happened and which jewels were stolen. So on the 19th of October at 9:30 a.m., 30 minutes after the museum had actually opened, 2 masked men broke into the Galerie d'Apollon, which is in the Denon wing. It's the most popular wing of the museum. It's where you have the Mona Lisa, for example. And the Galerie d'Apollon is located on the first floor of this wing and houses the French crown jewels. There are 4 suspects in this robbery, 2 men who were on a mechanized lift and 2 men who were on the ground on motorized scooters. The men wore yellow vests to sort of blend in and give the appearance that they were construction workers. And I think this worked in part because actually along the banks of the Seine, right beside the Louvre and where they parked this mechanized lift, there is actual construction going on. And so at least temporarily, it would have appeared to blend in pretty well. At about 9:30 in the morning, the thieves raised the mechanized lift to the first floor, and the 2 men used angle grinders to break through the window, and then they used these same angle grinders to break through 2 of the glass cases and remove the jewels. The items that were stolen include la parure de saphir of the Queen Marie-Amélie and Queen Hortense, which is a set that includes a necklace made up of 8 blue sapphires and 631 diamonds, 1 of the matching earrings, and the tiara, which is made up of 8 blue sapphires and 1,083 diamonds. Le diadème of Empress Eugénie, which is a tiara that's adorned with 2,012 pearls and almost 3,000 diamonds. Les bijoux de la parure de Marie-Louise, which includes 1 necklace adorned with 32 emeralds and 1,138 diamonds, plus the matching pair of earrings. La broche reliquaire, which is a brooch made up of 94 diamonds. And un grand nœud de corsage, which was Empress Eugénie's brooch, which is made up of about 2,700 diamonds. Empress Eugénie's crown was also stolen, but thankfully it was found, albeit damaged, outside on the escape route. The total damages are estimated at $88 million, but I do think that it's very hard to put a sentimental, historical, cultural estimated value on such important pieces of jewelry, such important pieces of history for France. In total, the robbers only spent 4 minutes in the Galerie d'Apollon and were in and out of the same window. The heist overall took 7 minutes. Now, the alarms did sound once the window was broken, and 5 security guards reacted immediately to the alarms. But once they entered the Galerie d'Apollon, the thieves actually threatened them with the same angle grinders that they used to break through the window and the glass display cases. And because the priority for security isn't necessarily protecting the jewels, but rather protecting the visitors, they immediately focused on the safety of the patrons in the museum and evacuating the Galerie d'Apollon. Post-robbery, the security at the Louvre has come into question, and so I think it's interesting to note that following this heist, a report was released that indicates that there was a persistent and considerable delay in equipping the museum with security equipment that is conformed to the current norm and need for museums such as the Louvre. For example, there's a considerable lack of security cameras and staffing. There is some footage of the robbery that has surfaced, and what can be deduced thus far is that there are 4 robbers, all of which are men, who covered their faces and are likely seasoned thieves from a criminal organization. On the 25th of October, the first arrests were made. 2 men were arrested, one aged 34 and 39. Both were residents of Aubervilliers, which is a commune just above Paris. One of the suspects is French and was arrested at his residence. The other suspect is Algerian and was actually arrested at the airport as he was trying to board a flight to Algeria without a return ticket to France. The first of the 2 men arrested doesn't have a known profession, but was known by law enforcement for traffic violations and had already been convicted of petty theft. The second man had a more extensive criminal record. He was working as an unlicensed taxi driver and was already known for aggravated robbery. The DNA found at the crime site, notably on the window, on the crown left behind, and on the scooter, linked these 2 men to the robbery, and both men admitted their partial involvement. Police actually suspect that these 2 men were the 2 thieves that entered into the Galerie d'Apollon and stole the jewels. As such, they've formally been charged with aggravated robbery and criminal conspiracy. Now, before we get to our next set of arrests, let me just turn on some lights. Now, on the 30th of October, 5 more men were arrested, and they were actually arrested in the 16th as they were waiting in line to go into a professional soccer game. One of the 5 men arrested is suspected to be one of the scooter drivers. The other 4 men that were arrested are suspected to at least know valuable information about the heist. So in summary, 12 days after the robbery, we have 7 arrests and still no jewels found. I want to give my thoughts actually on a couple of things. First and foremost, the Galerie d'Apollon. Now, if you've been to this gallery or maybe you've seen pictures, you might be surprised that the crown jewels are stored here. At least I was. On my first visit, on my 10th visit, I go quite often to the Louvre. We were actually just there with Jean maybe a month ago for a guided tour, and we were in the Galerie d'Apollon. And what's always surprised me about this area in the Louvre is that it's incredibly bright. There's a lot of natural light, and it's almost jarring because you have all of these windows, and I don't know anything about the security of the Louvre, right? But these what appear to be thin glass windows and thousands of diamonds and jewels and very opulent pieces in these glass display cases. I remember my first time going and I was like, there's no way that this many invaluable jewels are stored in this room with 20 different windows and just these glass cases as protection. Whenever I've seen jewelry that would be comparable in value, it's always been in like an enclosed room where there's one entry and one exit. Like it has always felt unsafe to me. It's always been surprising to me that there are so many access points into this very long room with so many incredibly valuable jewels. In saying that, I almost feel like this type of robbery is inevitable. Like it almost felt as you're walking through the Galerie d'Apollon that you could just reach out and touch these jewels. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit naive about it, but it never felt like they were protected to the level that priceless jewels and crown jewels for France should be. I will say that I went back this morning to see if the gallery was open and sort of see what the vibe was like in the Louvre, and I can definitely say that they have upped security by at least 5 times the amount, whether it was outdoors or indoors. There were just security guards in these bright yellow vests all over the place. It was very clear that they had completely increased the amount of security at the Louvre. I'm looking at my notes and I think that's it for today's video and update. I am, of course, going to keep reading the news and follow all the updates as they come. I will continue to make videos as there are advances in the case. I really, like everyone, I really hope that they do find these jewels. Like they're so old and significant to the French history. I was reading an article that said, you know, these jewels belong to the people, they belong to France, and they hope that they come back to France and to the people by extension. So fingers crossed. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to hear how this story is being reported on in other countries, maybe the US or Canada or the UK. And I'd also love to know your experience. If you've been to the Galerie d'Apollon, did you have the same feeling that I had, or do you feel like this sort of heist was completely out of the blue? I was reading another article actually that gave a quote from the lawyers of the suspected thieves, who said that what was the word he used? I think it was extravagance. The extravagance and magnitude of this crime doesn't match the profile of his clients. So those who were suspected and convicted of the robberies, like the lawyers were saying, there is a huge lapse in competence, I want to say, from the people who are convicted and the magnitude of this crime. But of course, that's just the lawyer speaking on behalf of their client, and they have to say things like that. But yeah, I'd be very curious to know your thoughts down below in the comments. I hope you guys are having a great Friday and a great Halloween. As you can tell, Jean and I are doing nothing tonight, as Halloween is not a very popular holiday here. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.